Hi everyone, my name is Jenny and I'm back today to do another video. Today I will be talking through my 2021 reading goals as well as go over my TBR for the first month of 2021. So let's just get right into things. I have a pretty small number of reading goals for 2021, and that's in part just because I think that my 2021 will likely look pretty different as the months of 2021 go on. Hopefully I will be in graduate school at the end of 2021 or in the last quarter. However, I may be unemployed for some of 2021 because I'm working in a position that is likely temporary. That will end no later than May, but may end as early as March, depending on how the COVID-19 situation and vaccine distribution kind of shapes up, particularly here in Atlanta. So my 2021 is pretty open, so I want to keep my reading goals pretty manageable for however busy I might be through the months of 2021. They're not the most achievable goals, but I do hope that they are achievable even if I'm more busy than I'm even anticipating during the months of 2021. So my first goal is to read 90 books, which is about 7.5 books each month. This past year in 2020, I also set my goal for 90 books, and if I finish the books that I'm planning to finish, it is the 28th of December when I'm filming this, then I will actually surpass 150. So definitely blew that goal out of the water. However, I had a lot of things happen in 2020 that I was not anticipating that allowed for me to have a lot more reading time, so I don't expect that, or I don't hope that will happen again in 2021. So 90 feels manageable. I will see as I'm going through the months if I'm blowing that out of the water in the summer. I would likely keep it the same. However, if by the summer I am not even halfway done, I might have to readjust, as I definitely think I won't be able to read as much in the second half of 2021. Then my second goal for this year is to complete the 2021 Reading Women Challenge, and I've actually made a whole video talking about this, which I'll put a link to up in the cards above as well as in the description box below, as I really like the prompts for this year's Reading Women Challenge. However, there's a lot of prompts that I'm not entirely sure that I would pick up on my own. So I've made a whole kind of system of how I pick prompts each month that I talk about in depth in that video, but basically every month I will pick 2 prompts out of one of my ceramic bowls, and then the next month I will read those 2 prompts. So in that video where I explained all of my reading plans for the Reading Women 2021 Challenge, I actually picked my prompts for January, so I know what those prompts are, and I'll talk about them later in this video. But I will in this video pick my prompts for February, and then we'll talk about the books that I'm hoping to read for those 2 prompts in my February TBR. Then finally, goal number 3 is to reduce my physical TBR, and this is going to happen in 3 different ways. So as it stands now, I'm at 85 physical books on my TBR. However, I am reading 2 physical books right now that I'm hoping to finish by the end of this year. So that will put me at 83. At the beginning of 2020, I was at 75, so I have moved in the wrong direction. But I'm hoping that throughout 2021 I can continue to move in the right direction, and ideally I would like to reduce my TBR each month by 2 books. 2 seems like a relatively small number, but given how many months I've broken even on reducing my TBR for the past like 3-4 months, I feel like 2 is a realistic but somewhat challenging goal, and really limits me primarily to my book of the month box and reading and acquiring books for reading projects, and not necessarily picking up books on a whim, which I do think is good. I have a lot of books that are on my physical TBR that I'm really excited about, and so I think really limiting myself to those books will help me continue to be excited about them and get through them. So that is my first part of my third goal. The second part of my third goal is that I want to read all 24 books that have been sitting on my physical TBR since before March of 2020. I was originally going to do before 2020 started, but I had like 19 books, and then I just so happened to have 5 books that I'd gotten in January and February of 2020, so it felt apt to just stretch it to March of 2020 as the deadline for when I've acquired those books. So I've also put all of those 24 titles on sheets of paper in this very beautiful ceramic bowl. And so each month in my TBR video, I will be pulling 2 of those as well and be reading those books during the month that I am doing the TBR for. So for example, I will pull 2 of those later in this video, and those will be 2 books that I'm adding to my January TBR. So hopefully this will make a bit more sense if it's unclear as I'm going through the process of pulling the books. Then the last part of this 3-part third goal is related to these TBR videos. So I do want to keep myself accountable for reducing my physical TBR through these TBR videos. So I'm hoping ideally, and you'll see this is a bit of an oxymoronic thing to say at the beginning of this video, to keep these TBRs quite short so that it's strictly the books that I definitely want to read during that month, and therefore, one, give myself a little leeway for other books that I might want to include during the month, and then two, really make sure that I actually read those books that I've set out to read in my TBR video. So I will continue to keep myself accountable. In June or July, I haven't quite decided, I will go back through all the previous month's TBRs and read any of the books that I've not completed from that TBR video in June or July. And then I will do that again for December and the second half of my year's TBR videos. So that way I'm making sure that I am actually reading the books that I had said that I wanted to read in a reasonable time frame. So those are my 3 reading goals. Let me know if you have any thoughts about those. But without further ado, let's get into the books that I'm hoping to read for January. As I said, I was hoping to keep my 2021 TBRs down to a pretty small number. However, in January, I have 16 books on this TBR, which is a lot. I definitely don't think I'll be able to get through all of these, but I'm hoping I can get through most of them. We'll just see. I am feeling quite excited about reading in the new year, so I may just be in a total reading train. We'll have to see kind of how the month shapes out, but as I said, if I don't finish any of these books, then I will return to them in June or July. So let's start with the 2 books that I believe will roll over from 2020 into 2021. Both of these I've talked about in my Vlogmas vlogs, if you were following along with those. The first of which is Stamped from the Beginning, The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America by Ibram X. Kendi. This one I actually started in November for Nonfiction November. However, it is quite hefty, and I've been reading it quite slowly along with a multitude of other books throughout the month of December, so I just wasn't able to finish this one, and I'm only about 160 pages into it out of about 500 pages. So this is another one that I'm going to continue on with through the month of January, potentially into February as well, as I kind of want to continue the slower pace that I'm reading this one. So that's the first book on my TBR for January. The second of which is one that I just started towards the end of 2020 and is another quite long book, so I won't be able to finish it, which is Visionary Women, How Rachel Carson, Jane Jacobs, Jane Goodall, and Alice Waters Changed Our World by Andrea Barnett. This is another nonfiction book that's a biography of these 4 women that ties them together through the argument that all 4 of these women were seminal in reshaping our understanding primarily of the environment and the way that we impact the environment. These 4 women are all women that I really look up to and admire, which is why I wanted to pick up this book, and I've been listening to it on audio, which has been really great, but it's pretty slow going. So this is another one that I will be continuing on through January and will hopefully finish at some point during this month. Then for the 2 prompts that I picked in my Reading Women Plans video, the first of which was a book that was longlisted for the JCB Prize, and so for that I'll be reading Latitudes of Longing by Shubhangi Swaroop. This is a book that was originally published in India in 2018, but just came out in the United States in 2020, and this one I believe is a set of interconnected short stories that all take place in India. It's a spellbinding work of literature. Latitudes of Longing follows the interconnected lives of characters searching for true intimacy. I've heard this one also has some kind of fantastic elements to it, which I'm intrigued about, and overall just super excited about this one. I've not heard a ton of people talk about it, but it does sound like it. It includes a lot of themes of things that I'm interested in, so excited to be getting to this one in January. And then the other prompt that I picked in that Reading Women Plans video was a fantasy novel by an Asian author, and so for this I'll be reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and this one I believe I actually will be buddy reading with Mercedes from Mercy's Bookish Musings, likely in the second half of January. We haven't fully decided any details, but this is the start of an adult fantasy series that follows our main character, who I believe her name is Rin, as she goes to a school and learns about military tactics. I think it's a school, and then a war breaks out and she is involved in the war in some way. That's pretty much all I know from kind of hearing other people on BookTube talk about this one. I'm not interested in knowing a ton about this book before I go into it, but this is one that I've had on my Kindle for quite a while, so I'm excited that I'm finally getting to this one this month. Then to pick the 2 prompts that I'll be reading in February, we have my handy ceramic bowl, and the 2 prompts that I'll be reading in February are... Ooh, okay, so I picked an author from Eastern Europe, but actually my pick for this was a book that I was planning on buddy reading with Courtney in March or April. So I'm actually going to take this one out. I know this is kind of cheating, but Courtney and I are planning on reading this not in February because Courtney can't read it in February. So I'm going to take that one out and pick 2 different ones. So the first one, for real this time, is going to be, ooh, a rural setting. And then the second one that I'll be reading in February is going to be a protagonist older than 50. Okay, great. I actually have physical books that I was going to use for both of those prompts, so that is great for me. Now moving into my pre-2020 random selections, and these, as I said at the beginning of this video, are books that I'm going to be reading this month. So I'm going to pick them out of my ceramic bowl, and then I will go get them and come back and tell you more about them. So the first one that I will be reading, I don't know why picking these makes me want to sing, but it does, is Children of Blood and Bone. And then the second one is Girls Burn Brighter. Okay, so I'll be right back, and I'm back. So first we have Girls Burn Brighter by Shobha Rao. This one is a literary fiction novel. I've read Rao's debut short story collection and really enjoyed, so when I heard that this novel was coming out, I did really want to read it. However, I do know that this gets pretty dark and grim, and so I think that's in large part why I've been so hesitant to pick it up. But this follows two young girls living in India, both of whom, as the blurb says, are poor, ambitious, and they are girls. And I believe one of the girls does get sold into sexual slavery, if I'm not mistaken, so this definitely goes to some pretty dark places, but I believe follows the two of them through the decades as they're trying to find one another and reconnect. So I'm really excited about this one, but it is one that I think will be pretty grim. But I'm also reading The Poppy War this month, which is also grim, so I think I might just have to lean into like the grim, disparaging vibes for this month. So excited about that one. And the other one is one that I've tried to pick up a couple times, and actually every time I put it down just because I'm not in the mood for it at that moment, which is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. So this one was all the rage back when it came out, I think in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2018, and is a young adult fantasy novel that's inspired by West African folklore about a young girl who I believe is in Orisha, and I believe this is kind of a quest revenge type fantasy wherein our main character may be the like rightful heir to a throne that is no longer within her family, if I'm not mistaken. But I know this one is really well beloved on BookTube. Pretty much every person that reads fantasy whatsoever has read this and absolutely loved it. I do know that the second book, which I think I have somewhere in my house because my mom has read this and really enjoyed it as well, but I think the second book people have liked less, and then the third book may be coming out later this year. In fact, I'm not entirely sure, but this is another one that I am excited about. It is quite chunky, which I think has been another reason why I've been hesitant to pick it up, but I'm excited to be getting to it this month. Then moving into the 5 arcs that I would like to get to this month, the first of which is The Broken Spine by Dorothy St. James. This one is coming out on January 19th from Berkeley, so this will probably be one of the first ones I read given that it's coming out in January. I'll likely start it right at the beginning of the month and potentially finish it before I go back to work on the 4th, but I wanted to include it here because I don't think I'll be able to get to it by the end of December. Then the next one coming out on February 2nd is Milk Blood Heat by Dantiel Moniz. This is a debut short story collection out from Grove Atlantic, and all of the stories are set in Florida, and I believe has something to do with like kind of personal reckoning slash coming to terms with some aspect of your life. So I'm intrigued about these ones. I've had a mixed experience with some of the Grove Atlantic arcs that I've had. I've really enjoyed some of their work, and then others are kind of hit or miss for me. So I'm intrigued about these ones, particularly given that they're a debut collection, and I do also really like the cover, so I will be reading this one pretty early on in the month as well. Also on the 2nd of February, we have The Land of Big Numbers by T. Ping Chen. This one, unfortunately, I don't have on my Kindle. It's only a like protected PDF on my computer. So if one of the books or several of the books of this TBR are not going to get read, I have a feeling it'll probably be this one as one of the first to go. But this is another short story collection. It's about China, and I believe it's diaspora. So I'm very intrigued about this one, particularly given that it's written by a woman, and I'm not super familiar with a lot of female Chinese authors. But given that I don't have the easiest way to read it, I'm not 100% sure I'll actually be able to read it this month. Then I would also like to get to We Run the Tides by Vendela Vida. This one is out on February 9th from Echo and is a coming-of-age slash mystery novel that's set in the 1980s in San Francisco and follows two young girls who I believe witness some sort of crime, but they disagree on what really happened, and then one of them goes missing. So I'm super excited about this one. I do love Echo's books usually, and so I hopefully will find this one to be a success. And then the last book that ideally I would like to get to in January, if not I will continue into February, is The Sum of Us by Heather McGhee, and this one is out on February 16th from One World, and this is a nonfiction book about racial inequity and its relationship to economic inequity in the United States, and I believe is basically arguing that a reestablishment of like social services and investment in public goods would actually benefit all Americans and help to solve a lot of issues that we see today in terms of racial inequity, which is definitely something that I agree with and is something that I'm interested in working on more in the like professional aspects of my life. So I'm definitely intrigued to hear what McGee's argument is in this one. Then, as if this TBR was not already absurdly long, I have several book club books slash project books that I am definitely hoping to get to at some point this month. The first of which is my last pick for my African Women Writers Project, which is How Beautiful We Were by Mbolo Mbui. This one I've talked about several times on my channel, so I'm not going to go into a ton of depth about it here, but I will have a full review of this one up at some point during the middle of the month, and then I also will have a wrapping up that whole project at some point in February, so do look out for those two videos coming up in the near-ish future. Then for my book club that I do with two of my best friends from college, virtually of course, we have The Patron Saint of Liars by Ann Patchett. This was one of my friend's picks because her mom says that this book is really good and she really wants her daughter, who's one of my friends, to read it. I've read a bit of Ann Patchett. I think this will be my third or fourth, I can't remember, Ann Patchett that I've read, and I do like her. I don't think the other two people in my book club will really enjoy this one, but we're intrigued about it. It was written in the early 90s, and we'll be intrigued to read this, particularly given that we really love like millennial fiction written by people that are potentially not even 30, and this kind of feels like that same type of book except for like our parents' generation. So we're excited to dive into the like previous generation of this book that's kind of talking about universal experiences. I don't know a ton about what this one's about, except I believe it's about an unmarried pregnant woman who goes to a home for unmarried pregnant women and stuff happens. So excited about that one. Then also at some point in January, Lindsay from Lindsay's Book Life and I are hoping to read Transcendent Kingdom by Yaa Gyasi. This is one that I've been super excited about. Oh, sorry, the glare on that one is not great. This is one that I've been super excited about for quite a while, so I'm glad that I will finally be able to get to it this month. Lindsay and I have not made any specific plans about this one, so I'm not sure when we'll get to it, but hopefully at some point during the month of January or the very beginning of February. And this is a literary fiction novel that follows a young woman in her PhD program named Gifty. I believe she's studying something related to addiction and the way our brains work because of some family trouble that happened. I believe she lost her brother to a heroin addiction, and so she is kind of reconciling a lot of her personal beliefs alongside what she's studying in an academic setting. So super intrigued about this one. Yaa Gyasi is definitely one of my favorite authors, and I hope that this book will solidify that even further. And then another book, if I really am just able to get through a lot this month, I would love to read A Kind of Freedom by Margaret Wilkerson Sexton. This is one that I'm reading for a reading project, and honestly I don't know a ton about this one except that I've read The Revisionist by Wilkerson Sexton earlier in 2020 and really enjoyed it, so I've been wanting to pick up her debut novel. This one may be historical. Yes, it is. It's Evelyn is a Creole woman who comes of age in New Orleans at the height of World War II, and then we also follow a timeline, it looks like, in the 80s. So excited about this one. Her second novel was also a dual timeline novel, and I really enjoyed that, so excited about this one. And then last but not least, just a random pick that I'm actually hoping to read again before I go back to work on the 4th, so just in these first couple days of January, is Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. This is a middle grade horror novel that's the second in Catherine Arden's middle grade horror novel series that follows a young girl named Ollie and her two friends as they go through some spooky stuff. The first one was set in the fall, and this one is set in the winter at, I believe, a haunted hotel. So I'm super excited about this one, and hopefully we'll be getting into it very soon at the beginning of January. So those are all the 16 books that I'm hoping to read, potentially finish, but at least start during the month of January. If you have read any of these books and are ready to talk about them with me, please let me know down in the comment section below. Additionally, I'd love to hear what books you are reading in the month of January down in the comment section below. If you are new to my channel, I'd love to have you stick around and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.